I'm going to consider that it was done by consensus. Just a couple things I want to draw your attention to as we gather. Our chaplains are Leslie Fox on Zoom and Ann Harbridge in person. And do you have their contact information that you could put on the screen again, just in case anybody wants it? Yes. Sure. Ann, do you want to stand up and do a little turnaround? Thank you. Now it's going to be your turn, because I'm also going to remind everyone that our equity support team for this meeting consists of Maggie Dieter, Linda Roberts, and Andrea Allen. And I'm going to see if we can get their contact information put up again. Yeah, take a moment. Is Linda here? Oh. Perfect. So there's the chaplains. And just a reminder that there is a list out just outside the door that's on the wall of the contact information for our equity support team. And just to name that Linda not being here, that may be the equity piece she needed to do for herself, just to have some time away from this kind of a meeting. And I completely understand that. I'll remind people that at the back there is a table for those of you who are just, you sat down in these seats, but then halfway through the meeting, you might say, I cannot do it for 1 second longer. Please get up, walk around, do what you need to do for your own bodies. And there's a table at the back with, you can color, play with some air dry clay, go check out what my daughter Neela's working on under the window, things like that. Now, you'll have everyone visiting you, Neela. And again, as we begin, I'll remind you that we have an order of the day, and it will be when the moderator comes to visit us. Having said all that, we'll begin tonight with me presenting our nominee for president-elect. I'm going to invite her to come and share with us. Rebecca Duncan and I were first introduced at a Northern Waters Presbytery meeting in 2018, and came to know each other better as colleagues in neighboring pastoral charges, me at Stainer and her doing collaborative ministry with Nottawa, Rob Roy, and Badgerose at the time. 6 years later, I'm proud to call her friend and thrilled to give her this time to introduce herself to the court. Although we only have one nominee for president-elect, we will still hold a vote to allow the court to choose to elect Rebecca Duncan to the position. That vote will take place tomorrow morning, and I invite you to take time between now and then to discern and connect with Rebecca as you feel you need to make that decision. There's also some more information about Rebecca on page 18 of the workbook, but I'll invite her forward to tell you all about herself. I'll move this.
Good evening. Maybe we should all start by taking because it has been a long day. I titled this sharing, Introducing Me for the Purpose of Offering Myself as President-elect. Because while few of you know me well, and some of you know who I am, I think to most of you, I am most likely unknown at face and name. So, to adopt an Accessibility Act adopted by Right Reverend Cameron Lansdowne and Jennifer Irving this morning, I am Rebecca Duncan. I use she, her pronouns. With my boots on, I am close to 6 feet tall, though I am shorter than I was 25 years ago, but taller than I was 25 years before that. Today, I am wearing a plum and rust orange floral print long sleeve shirt, brown pants, and purple 8-hole docks with bright orange laces. My glasses are decidedly plum in color. My hair is graying, light brown, which is kind of curly and resting at my shoulders. And I have 2 ears, but one of them is purely decorative. The rest of my face, I will leave to your imagination. I am the product of 2 retired United Church ministers and a massage therapist. 50 years in the making, I have 3 brothers, none of whom are interested in church much. I have 2 children, a partner who lives in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and people who I consider family all over this country and around the world. I am bivocational as an ordained minister and as a massage therapist, and I am a Beaver Scouter. I got my 10-year award 2 weeks ago. I have an undergraduate degree in drama from Mount Allison University, but let me be clear, I'm a stage manager, not an actor. I'm currently finishing up my master's in theology and religious studies at the Atlanta School of Theology, where I also earned my MDiv in 2020. I have many tattoos. When I first told my dad that I had been persuaded, that I had discerned to be president-elect of Western Ontario Waterways, he said that being part of the regional team was not ever a position he aspired to have. Unlike my dad, I've always felt pulled towards rural congregational ministry as well as the work within our church on a more global level. Still, I find myself slightly terrified to be standing up here in front of you today. However, I am acutely aware that in my life it is the things I chose not to be brave enough to do that I regret the most. And it is a choice. So today I choose to be brave, albeit apparently weepy. I have worked to become more active in the region, and I currently am a member of the recruitment team. Doesn't Carmen use this to support things? There we go. I'm currently a member of the recruitment team and the Congregational Support Commission, and I have been involved in the United Church my whole life. It is true that we write our own stories inspired by one another and our experience of the divine. Yet what might look like a stand of individual trees, if you look closer, if you look beneath the surface, you'll find out how intrinsically they are all connected, how much one part of the vignette is reliant on all that surrounds and supports it. The same is fundamentally true of us and of our church. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, in this world works in isolation. And no one part can thrive without the support of others. I see the value of individuals while also knowing we each function as a key part of a bigger whole. I've been told repeatedly that one of the definitions of insanity is to continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I've lived a lifetime in our church hearing the adage, if it ain't broke. But I'm not convinced that it's not time for some diligent repair work. Not work for us to do on our own, but work for us to do together. I wish to continue on with Jennifer's efforts to nurture and enhance our sense of community, both smaller collectives within our nearby church families, but also with all of us as a region. If success can only occur after we have been challenged, then I believe the only time we fail is if we leave the challenge unchanged and without new learning. If nothing happens in isolation, then the challenge we face must be done together in order to achieve the change that we seek. I would like to, with your blessing, spend time exploring how we measure that success as individual communities of faith, as a region, and how we impact the national church as a whole. We know that ripples occur when one voice is heard. Imagine what we can do together to grow our communities, investigating what we even mean when we say grow our communities. I have a deep understanding of what it means to be on the brink of nothingness, to be afraid that death is the only option, that dying is the last action left. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case. The fact that I stand before you is proof of that. While Brené Brown may say that everyone has a story that will break your heart, I believe we also have a story that is a testament to tenacity, a story that lifts your hearts and brings tears of celebration. Perhaps if we spend time evaluating what we consider to be success, then we may be better able to hear and use these stories of triumph rather than living in the shadow of death. Remember the 23rd Psalm. Yea, though we walk through the shadow of the valley of death, we should fear no evil, for God is with us. God's rod and staff comfort us. God is with us. We are not alone. Thank you.
So thank you, Rebecca, for taking the time to discern that call and being brave enough to answer it. So a reminder that the election for Rebecca will be tomorrow morning. And so if you need more time or more conversation with Rebecca to discern what you would like to do in that election, then you have until then. I'm now going to invite Andrew Hyde forward as chair of our Discipleship and Justice Commission to honor those newly affirming ministries within Western Ontario Waterways Regional Council with a presentation of the WOWRC Pride flag.
Thank you, President Jennifer, and good evening, everyone. It is our commission's distinct joy to be supporting commission in our region, supporting the work of the affirming networks and affirming churches. And we want to celebrate with you today some new affirming congregations that have become affirming, that have made their celebration and recognize that in their own local context. And we want to celebrate them this year as they step into that new covenant together. So if there are some other members of the Discipleship and Justice Commission, could I call on you to stand up here with me? Is that okay? Oh. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I can name the people from each of the congregations and who to highlight on Zoom as you announce the place and I'll say who's coming to get it.
Wow, we are strangely organized. This is good. All right, so I'm going to invite you to celebrate with me, and I'm going to call them up congregation at a time, and then you'll say who is here, and then maybe one of our commission members can actually do the flag. Is that okay? And if you are a Zoom person, maybe you can raise your hand.
When you hear me call your name, yep.
Let's call your name. Okay, great. So, friends, would you join me in celebrating Grace United Church Hanover?
Don Blanchard is here receiving the flag on their behalf.
Thank you so much, Don. And friends, would you join me in celebrating Lakeshore United Church in Godrich?
So on Zoom, if Tina Otika and Don Cumming are on Zoom and would like to be highlighted on our, I know.
How it all started.
And this is Harry Disher getting the flag for you, but if you wanted to be highlighted on the screen so we could see you as well, that would be fine. And then Liz Guthrie is potentially on Zoom for the next couple.
Super. There was one special thing. My understanding is that this pair of churches is the first time a pastoral charge has together gone through the affirming process.
Oh.
So we're celebrating both Rockwood United Church and Stone United Church, who are a pastoral charge together, the Rockwood Stone Pastoral Charge. So we celebrate both Rockwood United, and Stone United Church.
And they don't have someone in person.
Well, I'm just down the road, so I can deliver it in person. So friends, let's once again celebrate our new affirming ministries in our region.
As we continue to celebrate our ministry together within WOWRC, I'd like to invite Ann Harbridge to share with us some of the ideas we've had to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the United Church of Canada within our regional council. There's something about this on page 41 of the workbook.
Hi, I'm Ann Harbridge, and I'm here right now in my role as a member of the executive. The executive, at one point, we're talking about how are we going to celebrate the 100th anniversary within our region. And so we put together a tiny little task group, and the other task group members include President Jennifer, Rebecca, Duncan, Stacey Mortson, and Heather Leffler joined us for a brainstorming session as well. And what we came up with a number of ideas. We want to acknowledge the national celebration that's happening with a big kickoff service in Toronto, and that's on June the 9th. And everyone is invited to participate in that either in person or online. So we want to be part of the national celebration. We also would like in some way to celebrate as a region. So we've come up with an idea that we hope you'll all be so excited about, you can't wait to get started. Rebecca has over there some puzzle pieces, and there's a puzzle piece for each community of faith. So if one representative from your community of faith, either tonight or tomorrow morning, if you're here in person, if you would go and see Rebecca, she's going to give you a puzzle piece, which you're going to take home to your community of faith, and we encourage you to decorate it in whatever way you choose to reflect your community of faith. We're going to collect those back up again between now and our spring regional meeting next year. So you got a whole, almost, not quite a whole year, because we're going to collect them early enough that we can get this put together. But you probably have about 9 months. Hey, that's about how long it takes to make a baby.
Oh, the symbolism.
So yeah, so you've got about 9 months to decorate your puzzle pieces. We're going to collect them back up again. They're numbered, so they have a place where they will go. And we're going to put together a mosaic that's in the shape of our region. It's going to end up being about 4 by 6 feet. So it's a good size. Your puzzle piece is probably about yay big. And decorate any way you choose. Only on one side, please. Don't decorate the back side, because the back side has the number on it, and that's how we know where to put it in the puzzle. So don't decorate the number, or we won't know where to put you. You won't be in your geographic area. You will be wherever your number turns up. And we're going to record who's got what numbers. So if you don't give it back to us, we know how to chase you down. Okay? So we need you to return those to us. And there are instructions with the puzzle piece on all of that and how to get it back to us so that we can get it all assembled for next year at this time. So that's the regional plan. In addition to that, we have thought about perhaps it would be fun to come together as a region, all of our communities of faith together, for a big worship service. And maybe an old-fashioned picnic to go with it. So we've had some mixed feelings about whether that would fly or not. So tonight, when you see Rebecca, you can pick up a card. And on this card is a bit of a summary of what I'm talking about right now. And there's a little tear-off, which you can fill out and drop in the basket over there to give us a sense of, yeah, that's something that would appeal to us. We would like to be a part of that. So are you interested in a worship only? Yes or no? Are you worshiped in a rally or interested in a rally only? Yes or no? I'd like to do worship and a rally. Yes, please. Or even better, I would be willing to assist in the planning. So all of those check boxes are on there. If you would fill that out with your name and contact information, the name of your community of faith, and drop it in the basket there, that will help us as we start planning toward the spring. And the last, Kate?
What do you mean by rally?
Well, a rally or a picnic or something active and outdoors and with kids and old folks and in-betweens and everybody. Like an old-fashioned picnic maybe would be a better idea. And we don't know yet because the planning committee hasn't been struck to figure it all out. That's why there's that last box, are you willing to assist? So if you have ideas, we'd love you to tick that box. And finally, our communities of faith need to celebrate the 100th anniversary as well. And so on the back of this card is some suggestions, and these are only suggestions, and there are a limited number of suggestions. Your imaginations are far bigger than mine or the rest of the group that met to put this together. Whatever you come up with, we want to hear about it. So if you're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the United Church, take pictures, write stories, send them to us. There's an email address, and it's really creative, wowuc100@gmail.com. Send your things to that email address. We will find a way of putting it out there so we can share with each other what we're all doing. And that will hopefully inspire others as well. So that's where we're at this point. Yes, John?
Question online.
Yes.
What can we do to get a puzzle piece if we're not here?
We will see that, so we'll be recording who's getting which puzzle pieces, and we have a list of all the communities of faith, and in the next couple of weeks or so, a month or thereabouts, we will get the puzzle pieces to you somehow. We have to figure that out. If you know that your neighboring congregation is not here this weekend, and you know for a fact that you'll be seeing them, you could offer to deliver it to them, and we wouldn't object to that, I don't think, would we, Rebecca? So if you can help out by delivering a couple of these puzzle pieces, it'll save us postage and so on. So that would be helpful too. Any other questions? Yeah, absolutely. Or email the wowuc100@gmail.com. Yeah, email that address with your response. Absolutely. And we would love to have churches do this as a group and participate together with us. But if your church says, no, we're not interested, but you are, you can come anyway. Okay? This is for individuals and communities of faith. The more the merrier. And let's really celebrate. 100 years is pretty fantastic. So we want to celebrate it. Norm?
Does a 2-point charge get 2 puzzle pieces?
Yes, a 2-point charge gets 2 puzzle pieces. So each community of faith, and if it's not a church, like Andrew's chaplain at the Guelph Campus Ministries, that's a community of faith, and so they get a puzzle piece. Yeah. Each community of faith. Any other questions? Over here. Yeah.
Bonnie Holiday, do we put our name of the pastoral charge on the front, or are you just to?
You don't have to put the name of your pastoral charge on the front. We will have a legend when it's all done. We'll have a legend of whose puzzle pieces are where on the puzzle. So you'll be able to look it up. If you want to print it in marker on the back, that's fine. We don't want you to have to take up the whole front of the puzzle piece and writing your community of faith's name, though.
But if that's what you want to do, you
unless
can.
want to. Yeah, if you want to, that's fine. Yeah, the puzzle piece is yours to decorate as you see fit, on the front only. I keep emphasizing that, don't I? Is that okay,
Don't
Rebecca?
cover the number.
Rebecca?
Some of you will get puzzle pieces with a number on one side and a thick black line on the other. You can decorate over the black line, but indicate that line some other way, because that is a boundary line of a region on your puzzle piece, and if it disappears, I will have to recreate it over the beautiful artwork, which I would rather not have.
Huh.
Yeah, so if you have a black line on your puzzle piece, that means you're on the edge of the region. Maybe not decorate over the black line, decorate on the inside of the black line. Any other questions? Did I take more than the 2 minutes I said I was going to take? Sorry.
I had a feeling. This is a good opportunity to everybody see people who are here on Zoom and to give a wave out, that we remind ourselves that it's not just the people in this room, but we've got participants on Zoom. About how many people do we have on Zoom tonight, Andrew? He was distracted, he's got his earphones in. 50. Whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Hello, Zoom. That's wonderful. So we have quite a representation between who's in the room and who's on Zoom. Thank you, John.
Time when the world is turned upside down.
Oh,
When
well, maybe we'll come back to it
frustration
later.
mounts and anger threatens to engulf
We'll just skip over this video till the
Even the
end,
smallest
and we'll
things
skip
ruin our
to
day,
proposal
and
4,
all
and
sin against
or we may show this video tomorrow,
There is
and
hope.
we'll move into some business. Sorry about that, because I know you were excited. Yeah, let's just take a second to leave up, if the people who are on Zoom would like to turn their camera on for a second, and we can just give a little wave. I don't know if they can see us in our room. This is where the camera is, behind Andrew's head at the back. So we could wave to those who are on Zoom. Oh, and look, we can see them waving. Hey! Hi, everybody. Hello. Oh, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad you could join us for. There should be another page. Yeah, we want to see everybody. The second page maybe is just mostly cameras off, but no, quite a few have their cameras on. Hello, everybody. Okay, now we know who's here, ready to do the business of the court. Yes, we do. Okay, write that down. That'll be the anthem at the United Church 100th anniversary picnic / rally / worship service that we have. All right, so our next piece of business comes from pages 19 and 20 of the workbook. It's the proposed slate of new nominees for the executive and commissions of Western Ontario Waterways Regional Council. So just as we're starting this, part of the preamble to the proposal talks about accepting the resignations of people from our executive and commissions. Most of those who are stepping down from their positions do so because they have served already 2 terms in office, and or have finished a complete term and are ready to step down. And I just wanted to highlight that in our opening motion, we approved the appointment of Wonder Chimvinga to the executive, and now we have to accept Wonder's resignation. And for those of you who are wondering why, it is because Wonder has been called to serve on the admissions board for the wider church, and he has discerned that call to serve there, and so we regretfully have to allow him to follow that call, and we thank him for being willing to serve. We know he will be of great benefit to the admissions board, and we are thankful. We only wish he could do both, but it's not allowed. All right, so what we do have I want to just thank those who are completing their terms. Mark Laird, who obviously had to step away before he quite finished his past president term, as he stepped into the position of executive minister, but he is now completing it. Andrea Allen, who will be stepping down from the executive, Jessica Cottrell, Wonder, who I pointed out, from congregational support, Judy Chalmers, and then from Mission and Discipleship, Mary Hawthorne and Joyce Osborne. So thank you to all of those who have finished their terms and who are stepping down. We appreciate the ways in which you have served the church over the terms that you did and all the ways that you have been there for the regional council. Eric, can I get a... But the recruitment team is very thankful to present the slate of nominees that we are presenting to you tonight. So they are willing to step into the role of secretary for the executive, Dawn Blanchard. I feel like we should applaud each one, and that one especially because the role has been vacant since the regional council was formed. That we have not had someone in that role. Sue Doulaban has been filling that role for us while we didn't have someone, and since she's retiring, this is especially awesome that Dawn is able and willing to step into that role. Of course, we're applauding, and you guys have not approved this slate yet, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe hold off. The Discipleship and Justice Commission, John Edeyemi, Diane Dick, and Crystal McGee have put their name forward to serve on that commission. The Human Resources Commission, Lena Medeiros and James Montgomery and Kate Stewart have all put their names forward, being willing to serve. On the Human Resources Commission. So we are asking, as the recruitment team, that the regional council agree to approve this slate that we have prepared. Are there any questions for clarification regarding this motion? Andrea? Yep. Yep. A 3-year term. That can be renewed once. I was wondering that too, because it says 26, right? We'll take Andrea's name off as resigning. We'll keep you. We'll keep you. It doesn't say 24, so you're serving till 26, Andrea, is what you're saying? I should have checked with you before. All right, so a little correction to the resignations. Andrea Allen is serving until 26. And we're going to keep her on the executive. Yay! Thanks, Andrea. That's a great question for clarification. Any other questions for clarification? I don't know how that happened. Yeah. I know you will. Are there any changes or additions suggested for this proposal? Then I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Bruce Dixon for moving the motion, and Roz Vincent Haven to second the motion. Is there any further discussion? Then I will call for the vote and for a Zoom poll. All those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. Now I'll ask for the big round of applause and a thank you to all those. Oh, sorry. And the Zoom poll is fine too. Yes, so thank you to all those who put their names forward. If you have been sort of feeling a niggling to serve, even though we do the whole slate at the regional council meeting in the spring, if expressions of interest are filled out between now and the next spring regional meeting, as you can see from our opening motion, those can be appointed by the executive and then approved at our next regional council meeting. So continue to fill out those expressions of interest. We're happy to get them. Question? Yes, there are limits. Right now, our commission and executive, our commission, Discipleship and Justice Commission and the Human Resources Commission have space. The executive has space, but the Congregational Support Commission only has one space, but they do have a space also. So all of our commissions and executive have space for more if there are more volunteers who would like to serve. And I've just been sort of wondering where they might fit in. I'll ask the chairs of our commissions to stand so that you can see who they are if you had questions. So we've got Andrew Hyde is the chair of our Discipleship and Justice Commission. Doug Hayward is chair of our Human Resources Commission with the glasses at the back there. And Ann Harbridge, who you've seen a little bit, is the chair of our Congregational Support Commission. Okay, so if you had questions for them. Okay, now, do we think we can get that video to show with sound? Yes. Oh, yes. This is, okay, excellent. Then let us watch.
In a time when the world is turned upside down, when frustration mounts and anger
Still no, eh?
threatens to engulf
There's sound on
us,
Zoom?
when even the smallest things ruin our day,
And just
and
not for
all
us,
sin
or
against us. There is
no
hope.
sound on Zoom either?
There's a
All right,
place
well,
where the calm and serene can be found.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going
A
on.
place
Sorry.
gentle on
that's
your
okay.
heart.
Technology, there's always glitches with technology. It's, everyone should expect it, right? Oh, that's funny. All right. So our visit from the moderator is supposed to happen in the next few minutes. And I'm wondering if while we are waiting, we might do a little piece of unfinished business from this morning. Since the plan was to move things into this space, and I did tell you you had till tomorrow morning to discern about Rebecca. I don't want to move, that was our first item to move, so. So this morning we had a conversation and we tabled a motion around the proposal that was defeated closely about, and we tabled the motion of whether or not we were going to transmit that proposal. So I will bring that motion off the table in this time and invite anyone who wants to speak to the motion of whether to transmit or not to come forward or go to the microphone at the back. So Anne, you had something? Okay. Do you want to, yep, go ahead, Craig. We'll start with you and then we'll have, and we may have come up with a solution. So the back microphone, and if you can identify yourself and where you're from. Still not on, just give us a second. Oh, is there a button? Oh, there we go.
Ta-da!
Yeah, it works.
Greg Bartlett, Ministry Personnel, Tara Chesley Dobbinton. My pronouns are he, him. This proposal has a very practical focus, but there are issues of polity and theology that need to be considered with the issue being addressed in the proposal. That having been said, the vote was close, and if this proposal is transmitted to the General Council, it can be a contribution to the ongoing discussion about this, and therefore, for that reason, I think it should be transmitted.
Oh, I had a feeling this was going to happen.
Move to table. Move to table.
Yes. Put that back on the table. We have an order of the day, and we welcome to our regional council meeting the moderator, Right Reverend Dr. Carmen Lansdowne. Yes.
Hi, friends. I did not prepare anything formal, and what I've done in the last two regional council meetings is just open it, like have a bit of a Q&A time. I've spent like nearly 2 hours talking at you the last 24 hours, and I'm sure you might have questions about the church or me or you or anything, and I'm happy to just, if we can have like a mic runner so that folks online also
Yes, well,
can hear
we gathered our questions ahead of time
you, so
for the most
organized.
part, and so I thought I'll read the questions that have come in,
Nice.
and then if we have time at the end, then if there's anybody who would like to ask a question, I'll invite you to go to the microphone at the back. Does
Okay.
that sound okay?
Yeah. You guys can hear me okay on this mic, right? Okay.
It's not as loud as mine, so it seems like.
Apparently I can get loud if I want to.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a couple that we had come in about Gaza. So we had two questions, and I'll just invite you to respond however you see fit to them. In light of Daring Justice and your comments last night, what action is the United Church taking to respond to the international cry against the Israeli atrocities in Gaza and support of the Palestinian people today? And then a similar theme on your recent pilgrimage for peace for Gaza. Would you share a learning or two? How do we honor Jewish rights versus horrors experienced by Palestinians?
So easy questions.
Yes, yeah, that's how we like to do it.
Okay. Actually, it's interesting. Somebody in the last regional council just asked me what I thought my legacy would be. And I remember when Russia invaded Ukraine thinking like, oh man, please let somebody else get nominated for moderator, because I do not want to be like a wartime moderator. But it's interesting because when I joined the governing bodies of the World Council of Churches in 2006, I very confidently got up to the microphone in the plenary and said, quit trying to pigeonhole Indigenous people into only talking about the environment. We care about other things. We care about the economy. We care about nuclear disarmament. We care about Israel-Palestine. And I walked out of a plenary hall, and one of the staff people came up to me and was like, so, Carmen, how would you like to co-chair the Palestine-Israel Ecumenical Forum Core Group? So, and then in 2008, when I was applying for my doctoral programs, I actually intended to write my dissertation about Israel-Palestine and that conflict from an Indigenous perspective. And then very quickly had a change of heart by God's grace, our interdisciplinary studies PhD program was very vocationally focused, and I had this awareness in my first year that, oh my gosh, if I write my dissertation about this, then that is the only thing anybody will ever ask me to talk about ever again. And I would much rather look at the ways that Indigenous ways of being can help make the church more inclusive and life-giving, which is what I ended up writing about. But I have been, like, you know, it's like 20 years of being involved in these conversations, and it's messy and hard. And it's especially hard now because it's so hyper acute, right? Like, and so we have all kinds of people with a lot of armchair perspectives about what is the right thing, or, you know, making judgments about what they're hearing and seeing on the news, which is a lot of propaganda on both sides, but especially a lot of very like pro-State of Israel propaganda, and that's not new. And I will qualify that by saying that when we say that, or we talk about in the church, we have to be aware of the 200 plus year history of anti-Semitism that asserts that the Jews control the media, right? So, and I think this is one of the reasons why we got tripped up at General Council 44 and had to continue to do work on anti-Semitism. It wasn't just because of the F-bomb that got dropped, if you heard about that, but because sometimes in our quest for justice for Palestinians, we fall into repeating anti-Jewish tropes without understanding that we're doing that, because we really don't understand the history of Christian anti-Semitism. And for better or for worse, in part because we have been probably among the most pro-Palestinian Christian churches, but also because our leaders have said stuff that is anti-Jewish. We are perceived to be a very anti-Jewish church. And that is not helped by the fact that we have peace pilgrimages that are out marching for justice for Palestine, which is the right thing to do. And when the synagogue next door gets vandalized or the windows knocked out, we don't call the rabbi and say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. We get caught up in the righteous anger about the oppression of Palestinians, and it is righteous anger, and they are breaking the law 6 ways from Sunday. But that doesn't give us a pass from caring for our Jewish neighbors. And we need to be able to have a conversation within the church about how can both things be true? How can, like, we don't disagree with the right of the State of Israel to exist, but we underestimate the attachment of Canadian Jews to the State of Israel. And that underestimation fuels their positionality because it ties into their worst fears about people who do believe that they don't have the right to exist or do want to support their claim to Israel. Like, they're all about the evangelical church right now, which is to their own detriment, because, like, if you read with any depth about the evangelical churches that are supporting the State of Israel so they can convert them to Christianity, right? And we're not like that. So, like, we have so much learning and unpacking to do about it. So that's my caution to us about it. Don't be scared to speak truth to power, to raise concerns about the fact that the State of Israel is breaking the law. Are Hamas leaders breaking the law? Absolutely. They're committing war crimes. October 7th was and is a war crime. It is horrific. It has terrorized even the most pro-Palestinian leftist Jews in Israel. They cannot talk with their Palestinian siblings anymore because they are they're in shock, right? They all have PTSD, and you have these two peoples across 3 religions in this one tiny little area that is disputed, that are all living with complex PTSD, and us shouting about justice issues, like shouting at people with PTSD does not help. It doesn't help. And we're not having those conversations well. And we have some people that have been involved in seeking justice for Palestinians who have long histories of serving as ecumenical accompaniments for peace in Palestine and Israel, who have made multiple pilgrimages to the Holy Land, that support Palestinian tourism and business, and who their hearts are breaking because their friends are being killed. And the families of their friends are being killed, and it feels like the world doesn't care. And one of the things that happens, if you pay attention to the media, there's a very deep dehumanization of Palestinians. As somebody named it in Ottawa the other day, is the equals, right? Palestinian equals terrorist or Palestinian equals Hamas equals terrorist equals anti-Semitic equals. We make all of these false equivalencies in our heads about how all Palestinians are a threat to Jewish existence. And people who have been fighting for Palestinian justice for a long time are so very, very tired of that. And nobody more so than Palestinians. I think that to go back to the first question about what is the United Church of Canada doing, there are many, many things that we have done. Lorianne just prepared a very helpful, 4-page, pointed summary of all of the things that we have done since October 7th. We've been very active on this, and what I will say is, both because people don't engage with the communication that comes from the national church, and because people are in this hyperacute state of emotional response to it. There's a lot of assumption that we're not doing anything or that we're not doing enough, and so we get well, you have to go do this and this and this and this. And we're okay, we have done all those things though. So we have been very, very active, despite the fact that Palestine wasn't listed as a sort of priority area for us in our global partnerships. Last April, I went to Ottawa with Archbishop Lyndon Nichols, the Primate of the Anglican Church, Bishop Susan Johnson, the National Presiding Bishop of the Lutheran Church, and Dorcas Gordon, former principal at Knox College, who's a very esteemed elder in the Presbyterian Church. And we went and met with parliamentarians, including Heather McPherson from the NDP, Mike Zhang from the Conservatives, and then Rob Oliphant, everybody knows Rob, he's a United Church MP for Leaside. From the Liberal Party, he's parliamentary secretary for foreign affairs, so works directly with Minister Joly. And he gathered together a group of the folks who were on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and we said, we are hearing from our partners that Gaza is a tinderbox. It has been 6 years of living in a prison. It is not tenable. Things are going to blow up. There's going to be an escalation of violence. You have to do something. And the government said, well, we haven't really studied the Palestinian conflict for 20 years, so that's not good. And Heather McPherson put forward a proposal to the Foreign Affairs Committee that they re-engage in the study of Palestine. But that was the end of April, right? And so 2 months go by, we prepared briefings for the Foreign Affairs Committee with the expectation that we would be invited to come and testify to their committee as Canadian churches that have partnerships and relationships in the Middle East, and that we would be invited to invite our partners to come and testify to the Foreign Affairs Committee. But then summer happened, and then September happened, and they weren't ready on the gun, and then October 7th happened, and the sense that, so then we went back to Ottawa this past week, and we had the peace pilgrimage, and it was sort of the end of the public events that Kairos had called on the church to do. But we met with 8 or 9 parliamentarians, including 3 parliamentary secretaries, to talk about it. And the sense that we get is it's the government's or the MPs are we're not touching this. So we don't know anything about it. We certainly can't speak publicly about it. Even people who are have a very good grasp of the situation, but maybe because of their identity, if they spoke publicly about it, it would just become such a lightning rod because people would make assumptions about how they felt or what they said. I mean, you saw that with the the MPP in this province who tried to speak truth to power within her position as an MPP and got like completely skewered for it, right? So everything is in disarray in Ottawa about it. They're very grateful for the work that Kairos has done with member churches. They feel it's possible to continue making progress on the 5 calls to action in the Gaza ceasefire pilgrimage. We also want to add and are asking the churches to ask Canada to join Spain, Norway, Ireland in recognizing the state of Palestine. Because our official position is that we believe in a 2-state solution, but you can't have a 2-state solution without 2 states. And I don't know, there's a very small possibility, I think, just understanding how that part of the world works, and also being a dual citizen and understanding like how our governments relate to the US. I think if Biden gets reelected, it's very unlikely that Trudeau would do that. I think if Trump gets elected, we could go hard on Trudeau and say, like, make this your legacy, stand apart from the United States, and he would have every reason to do that. He's not going to do that if it's Biden, but if Trump gets elected, which is a very real possibility, I'm sad to say, if he's not in jail, like that would be a thing to do. The most effective thing that we can do is to work together as churches. So the more coalitions that we send, like working through Kairos has a lot of respect on Parliament Hill. They certainly have a lot more respect from the United Church on this particular file. But also write to your MPs. And I know we put the letter generator on our landing page about the conflict, and you can do that. But they basically told us that will all get filtered out. Unless you edit it heavily and it's in your own words, it'll get filtered out. But, and I know this because somebody on my board at First United said it to me about municipal politics. The #1 way to get the attention of your MP is to write a handwritten letter. If they get 4 handwritten letters about the same thing, they'll consider that to be a priority. More so than if they got 1,000 signatures on an electronic document, or 1,000 emails saying virtually the same thing. If you write to your MP, and especially you'll make me the happiest moderator in the world if you say, I'm a member of the United Church of Canada and I care about this. That's probably the best thing that you can do, is write to your MP and say that you care, say that you're concerned about war crimes. Ask Canada to support the requests coming from the ICC prosecutors, because they need political support in order to actually get those warrants. They're not being charged with the same things. It's not all just war crimes. Like, there's specific war crimes that Hamas leaders have been charged with, and there's specific war crimes, including using starvation as a tool of war, that the Israeli leadership are being targeted with. It's going to take a long time to sort this out. This conflict is 200 years in the making. But we do believe in the possibility of peaceful coexistence, and what a dear friend of mine in Palestine said to Wendy Gishiro, who's our staff person, she just got back from Palestine on Monday, from the West Bank. He said, the 2-state solution is not off the table, but what is quickly disappearing is the possibility of a peaceful 2-state solution. Because while we're all over-focused on the horrific bombing of Gaza, what was happening in Gaza over the last 16 years is happening in the West Bank. And pretty soon the West Bankers are going to have nothing left to lose. And what happened in Gaza is, and West Bankers are living under the expectation that the second that they have finished raising Rafah, that they're going to turn on the West Bank. And it's bad, and we need to pay attention, and we need to advocate for a just and lasting peace in the region. But we need to do that in a way that is kind, that is self-reflective, that is not perpetuating this perception that we are anti-Jewish. And understanding that Jewish Canadians are, like, my aunt is Jewish. The rise of anti-Semitism in Canada since October 7th makes her terrified for my cousin and her kids. My aunt's not, like, always the most stable person, and I think she has a lot of anxiety in general, and so this is playing into that. But, you know, I have Indigenous cousins that are, like, now the most tenacious, vociferous, loudest pro-Palestinian things, because they see the connections around settler colonialism and what's happening there. But they don't understand the history of the region. They don't understand anti-Semitism. They don't understand how this war has been theologized, especially over the last 80 years. And they're not helping. And we have to be careful. We have to be strategic. Oh, so the other thing that we're doing is that we have a new government relations officer that works on the church and mission team, which I'm very excited about, who is already well connected in Ottawa. She lives in Ottawa. Her name's Emily. And I have told Emily, so one of the things that we heard is if there's any way for church leaders to be having quiet conversations with advisors and people close to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Prime Minister, to be like saying, like, now is the time. Make this your legacy. Recognize Palestine as a state. Take a stronger stand. Like Bishop Susan said to one of the MPs as he was waving goodbye to us and the elevator doors were closing to take us out of the building, and she was like, unleash your inner angel. You know, like, the parliamentarians are scared. And so I have told Emily that, you know, I need another trip, like I need a hole in my head. But if there is anything that is of high strategic value, we're having the moderator sit down with a high-level advisor and say, in an educated, calm, not anti-Semitic way, now is the time to stand up for justice and for an enduring and lasting peaceful ceasefire in the region, that I will be there. So it might not feel like enough for some people, but not everything we do is helping either. Yeah.
Sorry, you'll be mad at me? Just have time for one more question.
I mean, it wasn't the easiest question, but it might have been the most important question.
Maybe. All right, so our next question is a shift back into the church stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that that wasn't church stuff, but
Yeah,
it was
no,
more global.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. All right.
Own stuff.
Yeah. If we are promoting life together and the importance of relationships, why have animators been put in place and people who drop in and then drop out rather than provide more resources for communities of faith to support at least three-quarter time paid accountable ministers who are in community? Is that one?
Because we have 2,250 plus communities of faith across the country. That is a lot of communities of faith. And really, growth animation and ministry development is under the purview of the regions, but our regions can't afford to add capacity there. And so the General Secretary has said, alongside Jennifer Henry as Executive Minister for Organizational Development and Leadership, or Strategy, that because we've said that these things are a priority, that at the super regional level, the tri-regional level, or the two-regional level, that this is a thing that the church, the national church can help with from our reserves for a fixed period of time to try and help to animate this work. And I will say that one of the things that I get it, people are tired. People are tired, and we're trying to maintain buildings that are aging and having, deferred maintenance. We have Many communities of faith that can't call ministry personnel. We had a long chat about that this morning. And people are tired and don't feel energetic and about or hopeful about the future. And we have financial pressures. And those financial pressures put pressures on the general council offices, which then affect our regions, because actually, like, we're not this big bank of the United Church of Canada that is like hanging up there in the sky that we're like hoarding resources, right? Like the financial health of the general council depends on the financial health of our congregations and support for mission and service. So when people aren't giving to mission and service, and when your congregational givings are going down and your assessments go down, that means the budget and the GCO goes down. And sometimes you have to spend money to make money, right? Like, we have to get the church reanimated in order to get people making decisions about, like, what is faithful for the future. We were pretty house poor, right? Like, I think the last time they published records in our yearbook, our cumulative property across the country was worth over $4 billion. But it's all tied up in land and decrepit buildings. And which gets even more complicated if you have a heritage building and your province or your city's not going to let you tear it down, right? So you can't even if you could get people animated to raise tens of millions of dollars to build yourself a cute little new building that meets your needs in the 21st century, you don't actually have a right to do that because you own a heritage building that's got a massive $12 million problem with needing a new roof and hazmat abatement in it. Like, all of those systems are really complex, but we don't have funding to provide ministry personnel in every community of faith, or even in every, like, sub-regional region. And I think it's the best and most creative thing that they could think of. And so what I will say is, instead of getting cranky about it, take advantage of it while it's here. It's not enough, but it's what we have. And if you just get pissed off about it and say, well, and you don't do the work, like we are the people that we have been waiting for. And it's okay. I meant to say this to other region because one of the pastoral, like the congregational support folks had talked to me about it earlier, but like, I know it's hard to say goodbye to some of the things that we feel like we have to preserve as part of our legacy. But when I talked this morning about holding on with a death grip, like, that is what's killing us. And we have to find ways to commemorate the past in a way that we hold on to that knowledge and we honor our forebears in the church for all the good that they did. I mean, there were some hard things too that were like cultural and, you know, we didn't know what we didn't know. But to continue to hold on because we feel like letting go does it as a service is what's killing us. And we have to have conversations at the regional level about that too, because we have a two-tiered culture in the church, right? What happens when a congregation like First Met in Victoria dies, or, you know, just randomly picking one, like, this is not for real, but like Islington United, like, they're fine. But it's the closest one I could think of in Toronto to where I live when I'm there. If Islington United in Toronto died, the resources from the sale of those properties in Victoria or Toronto are so immense compared to what happens if, you know, Marengo Pastoral Charge in Alsace and Laverna, Saskatchewan die. And so there's equity issues tied up in all of that, envisioning what the future is going to look like. But maybe we need to question, do we have to have neighborhood churches? How amazing, like, I just preached at a service in Truro, Nova Scotia. 5 United Church congregations in that town. They all came together because, like, the moderator was there. It's the first time they had ever worshiped together. And they loved it. They loved it. because the church felt alive and full. And I think sometimes we always, our inclination is to rely on what we know and always to try to solve our problems. And as humans, we don't do our best work when we try to solve problems. We do our best work when we set goals and we try to achieve them. So one of the best books I read in the last couple of years is called Mission Economy, A Moonshot Guide to Changing Capitalism by Mariana Mazzucato. She's an Italian economist that teaches in London. And she uses the Apollo mission as an example of when the federal government and the states did something really well. And she said, like, we had a national security threat, right? The Russians looked like they were going to have a space program before the US. And if JFK had gone around saying everybody like, oh, the Russians are going to have somebody on the moon before us, and this is like really terrible and scary, and it's going to be bad, and Star Wars is going to happen, or whatever, they probably couldn't have addressed that problem because it was too big, it was too unwieldy, and too many unknowns. Instead, JFK said, we are going to put a person on the moon within a decade. And then he sent out all of like this huge competition for RFPs that were super, super small baby steps and said, send me your best thinking on these problems. And the people that solved the problems the best, the fastest, got the next contract, and he whittled things down more and more. And everybody got behind this idea of putting a person on the moon. To the point you've probably heard this story if you were around in those days where he went to visit NASA and talked to a janitor and said, what do you do here, sir? And he said, well, I'm working to put a person on the moon, sir. It's a janitor in the building. But we get so focused on trying to solve our problems instead of figuring out where is it that we want to go? Where is God calling us to? We have so much important, beautiful theology to share, like the crucible that we have been through in the last 40 years since we stood up in 1986 and apologized for our complicity in colonization, and since we stood up for sexual orientation and gender rights in the church in 1988, was hard, and it hurt, and it divided the church, and we are still here, and we are all the more beautiful for it. And instead of saying, like, we are free from the shackles of colonialism, I mean, not totally free, like they're unlocked, but we're still kind of hanging on. But we are becoming freed from colonialism. We are becoming freed from heterosexism and cisgendered stuff, right? What a beautiful gift to the world. So let's figure out what we want to do with that. Like, how do we do those things I talked about in Life Together, about like really understanding that we are saved by Christ in who we are, just as we are as a church. And how do we share that with the world? And you don't need the General Council for that. So I'll end there.
Okay, so you get to be mad at me, not the moderator, but you're almost out of time for tonight anyway. So just so you know, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., you are back here, okay? Also, my mistake, I apologize. For those who are staying off-site, you can come for breakfast. That didn't used to be the case, it is now. I apologize for that, but please, breakfast is 7:30 to 9 tomorrow. And if you would like copies of the moderator's theme speeches, please email Sue about that, okay?
She has them already.
She has them already. So you email her and she will forward them along. Good luck.
Thank you. So I'll apologize too for the questions that weren't able to be asked tonight, but I hope that I chose ones that needed to be answered in this space, and I'm so thankful that the moderator was able to come so that we could ask those questions. This is an exciting time to be the church, and I hope that this time together tonight has reminded you of that. So, as Mark mentioned, it's tomorrow morning we're going to meet back in this room for another hour of business. We'll bring back off the table the motion that we have put there a couple of times. We have a couple more pieces of work to do, and then we will worship together as the Tri-Regional Council. This day, I'm going to say, is done, yet our life and work together continues. I would love it if you would sing taps with me in good camp style to finish out our day today. So you can choose to stand or sit, but I'll remind the people on Zoom, if you're not muted, you might want to be for this. Day is done, gone the sun, from the lakes, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest, God is nigh. Amen.